Thanks, Aditya. Yeah. All right.
So I'm just going to introduce you a little bit to the audience. You can go ahead and get your screen share started, and then I'll hand the stage over to you.
Sure.
Okay, so a little bit about Ganesh. Ganesh is an enthusiastic and passionate IT leader with over 2 decades of rich industry experience as a senior consultant, trainer, and entrepreneur. He has worked and consulted with large enterprises and financial institutions like Barclays Capital, Credit Suisse, J&J, JP Morgan, and NatWest. He is well experienced in agile project management and coaching, DevOps, quality assurance, and robotic process automation. He enjoys mentoring aspiring and experienced IT professionals and teams from diverse backgrounds. With that, once again, Ganesh, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. Over to you.
Thanks, Aditya. Warm welcome to everyone for this session about continuous delivery and DevSecOps, where security fits into the entire CI/CD pipeline. Right. So this session is actually is into two parts. The first will be handled by me for 20-25 minutes, where I'll be talking about DevOps in detail, because I'll be setting the context for Soenil to take over from there and talk about DevSecOps. And the most important thing is, what is DevOps, right? And from there, why do you need to do DevOps? And from there, you just see where security fits into the whole chain. So Soenil will probably start in another 15-20 minutes. So, I mean, Aditya has done his part in about my introduction, so I will not just go over this again. So I'll directly jump into the topic. As I told you, the summary of this, the whole takeaway from this session will be like, first is around agile practices, then what is CI and CD, and what is DevOps, and then towards the end we will have a Q&A session where myself and Sunil both will be there, and then we will try to tackle the questions. Right. So before I jump into actually DevOps, I just want to spend some time here on agile software development itself. As you can see from the screen, this is the manifesto of agile practices, where the couple of key elements which I really want to highlight here is that individuals and interactions, how individuals interact, is more important than what processes and tools that we really use. This doesn't mean that you will not be using processes and tools, but individuals and interactions are more important than this. The second one is documentation. We all know that traditionally we used to write a lot of documentations. Even now, many agile teams could not come out of it. They have adopted agile, but still they're very documentation heavy. But the idea is like, working software is more important than the comprehensive documentation. The third one is about the agile manifesto is collaboration with the customer. Right? The customer needs, addressing their business challenges. That is more important. Delivering software frequently to them, that is more important than actually contracts and money. So which means that the traditional way of this again doesn't mean that you shouldn't be signing contracts and things. Like, keep it lightweight. Things should move on in the direction towards the trust, right? How you collaborate with the customer, then really talk. Because I remember working on contracts where customers sometimes take a particular piece of a contract, flash it on me as a project manager, and say this part of the contract is not honored. That really means that there is lack of trust, right? So it's not that you shouldn't do it. That should be the last RSR that you should do. The first and foremost is collaborate and build trust. The last one is responding to change, then following a plan. Now, this is exactly where you will see DevOps is coming into picture, right? In the traditional software development process, we usually make deliveries once in 3 months, once in 6 months, sometimes even a year. We pile up all the functionalities and features and deliver it in one go, right? Then we plan a lot, right? But in the world of agile and DevOps, where we should be able to make multiple deployments in a day, right? Or at least multiple deployments in a week, which means that we are responding to the changes very fast. So it is just not enough to put this on paper and say that, oh, we have to respond to the change. We should have the infrastructure, tools, technologies that will enable us to actually do that. And that is where DevOps comes into pictures. Even though it is a practice, the practice along with the tools will help you to deliver things faster. So that's why I thought I'll start with the Agile Manifesto. In fact, one of the key principle about in the Agile principle is technical excellence. Technical excellence is very, very important, right? Constantly excel technically, which means that the team should always keep exploring that you are using the right technology for building and delivering and maintaining your application, right? So that is where exactly DevOps fits in. Then you also would know that one of the key important aspect of agile principle is incremental delivery. It is delivering value to the clients incrementally. Again, that is where DevOps really helps you. So you can say, yeah, I have an ambition to deliver something to the client every week, but can you really do it in a large enterprise? Think about it in a large enterprise. Can you really do it? I know many teams have this ambition that we want to deliver. So I also know that some enterprises actually could not deliver every week. So they created a new model itself called continuous delivery away from continuous deployment because they could not deliver because some of the ambitions are not met. But if you follow some of the DevOps practices, you should be able to. The other important motivation behind DevOps is this. If you look at very large enterprises, the development team will be isolated from the operations team. When I say operations team, it can be infrastructure team, infrastructure operations team, server management teams, database management teams, production support teams, right? And when I worked in a bank, we had a separate team for all these things, right? Your Windows server support team, database server support team, network server support team, infrastructure support team. For every aspect of infrastructure, you had a separate team. Then you had a first line support. Then you have a second line support. Then you have an engineering team. Then you have a development team. So the development team most often will have to talk to so many people if there is a problem, if they want to really do something. There's a lot of confusion. Now, does this really mean that all those things are not there now? It is still there. Some of the central teams still exist, but the companies are seeing how they can really uh, make them work alongside the development team in a very closed way. Okay, so that is actually the motivation behind DevOps itself, right? As you can see from the diagram, you have a BA coder tester. They are all working as part of the software engineering team, but the ops team is completely separate, right? So when there is a problem, then the dev team says that, oh, there's a problem with the production team. The infrastructure is not there, server space. Then the ops team says it is a problem with the code. Testing is not done properly, right? In fact, I know some of you might be aware there is a new area called site reliability engineering, SRE, right? Which is generally when we go and coach enterprises, nowadays we go and talk about DevOps, but we also talk about SRE, right? One of the important concept in SRE is blameless postmortem, right? You call them as blameless postmortem. You need to do postmortem when there is a problem and there is an incident that happens in an IT system. But how will you do it without blaming any particular team, right? And that is again a culture. So DevOps is more of a set of practices alongside culture, right? Which ensures that we all work as a single team rather than blaming each other, and which was mostly happening in the previous era. But things are shifting. I know few organizations have made some good progress at least, right? So this is again a broader definition of what I really spoke about in the last 5 to 10 minutes, right? So right from the time you start understanding the requirements to writing code, testing, moving it to dev environment, moving it to multiple test environments, to production, monitoring the solution, right? You work as a single team, right? So if you have a central team, then the solution, if you have a central team, then I was coaching a team in a bank, and then they said, no, Ganesh, we cannot really change overnight. We cannot just ask all these infrastructure teams to go away. Now let us know what is the solution, right? Then I told, right, okay, fine, I understand that because I also come from the same background, right? So now I said, we need to find out one infrastructure point of contact for the development team and make that person attend all the stand-ups and all the events that are part of the software engineering team, right? It's not like we will not call him whenever he comes, or whenever we have a problem, we will not shout out and then he'll come. And I want him part of the engineering team, one part of the engineering team. Then he can probably liaison with the other members of his team and get the things done. Things, because the infra team should really understand the challenges that are happening in the software engineering team, from development to testing to deployment, and vice versa is also true. The software engineers should also get the expert view from the infrastructure team. So one way of doing it is that make the infra person attend all the calls right from the beginning, right? I mean, if you know that most of you are aware of Scrum nowadays, right? So you have a daily stand-up calls, you have a retrospective events, make the infra guy attend some of these meetings. That's one simple way of doing it, right? So I mean, again, the diagram is probably an extension of it. So the one of the only key thing which I really want to highlight here is there are three important words which is very important: culture of trust, one. Second one is automation, 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 right? DevOps is just an umbrella term. Many often it is confused in many ways. What we end up doing within the DevOps umbrella actually matters more, right? I mean, what tools I use. Am I writing unit testing, right? Am I writing enough functional test automation, right? Have I automated the complete pipeline of deployment, right? Do I have a proper branching strategy and merging strategy, right? Um, have I considered the security aspects right from the beginning, which Sunil is going to talk about, right? Those things, or am I using a cloud environment so that I can scale up and scale down my infrastructure? My infrastructure development or infrastructure creation is now completely automated. What I really mean by that is that, do you have an infrastructure as a code solution? Can I replicate my infrastructure very quickly, build my infra? So these are the things that really matters than the umbrella umbrella jargon called as DevOps, right? So don't just stay there, drill down, and we need to drill down and see what we are actually doing, right? uh, so automation really helps, and then continuously improving on the whole DevOps practices also really matters. All right. So this is the same diagram, so I'll just skip this. So this is the typical life cycle of a DevOps, right? So it goes in the left, say, like, first you plan. What happens when you plan? You use Jira as a tool, right? So everywhere you get in a tool, then you code. What do you do when you code, right? You use, say, for example, I'm writing Java code. I use IntelliJ or Eclipse, right? Then I write unit test. I do test-driven development. That is one aspect. It's one of the DevOps practices, right? Then I build. When I build, then I actually do continuous integration. I do some scanning. I check on the code quality. I ensure that all my unit and integration tests are passing, right? And then I go about and release it to the test environments. And then I do some more integration test, system integration testing. Then if that works, then I actually release it. Then I send it to my server, which is most of the times nowadays is either a private cloud or a public cloud. Then I have a monitoring solution, right? Do I have a Grafana? Do I have CloudWatch? Right? Do you have Prometheus to monitor? Nagios. Some companies use Nagios tools to monitor the solution. So based on the monitoring, you again go back to the whole chain of planning, coding, building. Right? This is the typical DevOps life cycle that we usually see in an organization. Right? So this is exactly what I told you in the previous slide. Maybe not really a duplicate, I would say, but just with some tools. Right? You have a business need. It comes to the product owner. Then you have Eclipse or Visual Studio. Then you have, most often we use Git, right? And then we use Jenkins as the continuous integration and continuous delivery platform or a tool, right? And then from there you use Chef or Puppet to basically do automated deployment. There are other tools also now. Many tools are there. So these are just a very basic tool. I didn't want to make it look like over complicated, but I can tell you based on my experience, there are around 15 to 20 tools 15 to 20 tools that are integrated with one another to ensure seamless continuous integration and continuous deployment model, right? Now, so there are three aspects to it. One is continuous integration, the second one is continuous delivery, and third one is continuous deployment. Maybe I can spend a little bit time there. Continuous integration is done at the development time, right? And say I'm a developer and Soenil is another developer, and our code are dependent to each other. Then we kind of push our code daily to the Git, and then we have our tests automated. The most important thing here is automated. Everything should be automated. Now, the more automation you achieve, the more matured you are. Now, I've seen teams and organizations at different maturity level, right? Uh, Sometimes I went to a team and they said, like, we are already doing all these things. Then I just went there. Okay, fine. Let me do a quick review of that. Then I said, unit test, JUnit test 0. Not even a single unit test is written. Integration test is written, right? So what they have basically done is simple. They have just installed Jenkins. It runs a build and then copies the file onto the server. Now, is this a proper CI/CD? No automated test, no unit test, nothing, right? Now that is not. So if I go and review and work with the team, then I can understand from the team what practices they are doing. Then based on that, I can give them different rating, right? So that is what typically we do as part of the consulting engagements, right? Then we sit with the teams and then tell them where they can really improve and how they can improve, coach them to do all those things, right? So the most important thing is there are different maturity levels that exist. Different teams and organizations are at different levels. But as long as you are continually improving and then spending enough time, there is also a very important need that the leadership and the organization should be willing to invest a lot of time and money onto this, right? Only then you get all these entire tool chain, which is all properly integrated and working, and then you will reap the benefits of incremental value. Many teams, when I go and then they say, when I talk about agile practices, they just say we are using Scrum, right? I mean, I have done enough coaching on Scrum and Kanban also. I've done enough coaching on DevOps also. I can tell you based on my experience, if you are just using Scrum and you are saying that you are doing agile practices, maybe you are doing 20% of agile practices. You will never be able to deliver incremental value to the clients if you don't have the right technology and tools in place. And if you ask me the weightage of it, I will say the tools and technologies and actual software engineering practices like secure coding, DevOps, unit testing, test automation. These are all called as software engineering practices, right? The agile software engineering practices carry 80% weightage, and Scrum carries 20% weightage. If you want me to go one more level higher, I would say I don't care if you don't use Scrum also, because there are multiple ways to deliver software incrementally, and Scrum is not the only method that is available, right? So the most important thing is actually, so what does a company need? DevOps, right? Basically, for better time to market. The last word is very, very important. I will not talk about the same thing. When we use DevOps, another important thing that happens intrinsically is stability and availability of systems. Say something goes down. I'm talking about blue-green deployment kind of scenario, right? Where I can have one deployment done without, earlier when we do deployment, right? I will shut down my production system and then inform the teams that my system will not be available for 3 hours, right? But with concepts like blue-green deployment, I can just do it online, right? Which means that the availability of my system is very high. It also helps me. The most important thing is it also helps me to faster resolution of problems, right? If some server is not working, right, then I'm using a cloud environment, right? And then I have an infrastructure as a code. I can spin off another environment with all the configurations very quickly, and then have a failover solution working very fast. So, in nutshell, if you are using DevOps and DevOps practices along with the new concept which is from technically from Google, if it is new to you, you can Google research more about it, called as site reliability engineering. They are working hand in hand, right? Many people again go back and say, what is the difference between DevOps and SRE? Don't get into jargons. My advice generally is that I've worked with enough software engineering teams, at least 30, 40 teams now. People spend a lot of time on jargons. Actually, what we do matters, right? So they both work hand in hand, right? If you implement both of them together, I think you will have your deployment rates will go very very high, and of course you will have better. You will serve the competition well in the market. So that's pretty much from me. I will take on any questions towards the end, and I'll ask Sunil to take over from here, and then he will talk about secure coding and DevSecOps area. So over to you, Aditya.
Thank you, Ganesh, for that. I'm going to hand the stage over to Sunil. Sunil, welcome back again. Over to you.
Yeah, give me 1 sec. I will share my screen.
Sure.
I'll stop sharing.
Aditya, can you confirm you are able to see my screen?
Yes, I'm able to see your screen.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ganesh. Um, Let me proceed with the next part. So yes, Mr. Ganesh from Singapore has done his part. I'm moving to the Netherlands, and from the Netherlands, I'm going to proceed with the second part of this conference. So I will skip also this one for the person who has joined yesterday should know a bit about me. So in one slide, I just mentioned who I am. Have a partnership also with the Simbis from Singapore, Mr. Ganesh, and Rocheston also. So moving forward, where we add the security in the DevSec DevOps part. So I will start with the questions that I'm getting very often or related to the known question in this field. Who is responsible for the DevSecOps? So in the real life, you will see that the responsible partner will be the DevOps team because they are creating, they are defining it, and they build it. But the security team will be accountable for what's going on in those areas where they have started with the deployment. Moving next, yeah. Then the empowerment of the teams in the DevOps, you will see you need to work together with the other teams. Of course, the DevOps teams is working with the infra teams, with the development or the application or database teams where they need to set up their environment. The security team will also be a part of it, where they are need to work together, how they should be able to proceed. So it's not that we are against each other, but if you work together, you should be able to proceed with those items. On quick web testing, you will see that the business want to have it very soon, even if possible without testing. So I think 10, 15 years, 20 years ago was one of the approach where they said testing is not required, just put it in production, it's fine. I guess that now all the companies are aware that a proper testing is needed. I'm having in the past 15, 20 years ago also a background from software testing and also software development. So I know a bit what's going on and move in that area. But now seeing that even the security part, and now they are knowing that testing is needed, they test it, but what they need to test, as Mr. Ganesh already mentioned, in some situations they are not using or doing, following the procedures how and what you should be able to test. So proper test planning is also required. What I'm seeing that that should be, and in the test plan it should be also a part included from the security point of views. So having also the basic understanding about security in all those fields, not only for the development but also the business, is one of the part, is a requirement where they should be able to move. So the security awareness in depth more for the developers based on their applications or tools what they are using, but the overall awareness for the security for all the other business component. So even HR or reception or other teams who are working, they should be able to have those awareness. A kind of good sample of a very good training program is the RCCS, where you are learning a lot on several topics in about security awareness. Um, the security team should be more in the development part as an auditor, where they are checking and actually seeing what are the gaps or what need to be done. So they are not the teams who need to be resolve it, but they should be mentioned. Those items need to be aware or change or need to be adjusted. So I'm getting as a sample or the sample on to add on it. I'm getting a lot of job requirements also as a consultant working. Where they ask me also, especially also on roles of penetration tester or security engineer. But you need also to define the fault or the code mistakes what they have made, but also resolve it. So in those roles, I'm mostly saying, yeah, I'm not a developer anymore, so why should I resolve it? I'm able, from a security point of view, to mention what need to be done and how it should be done. The development team should be able to do it. So, so from those points of view, I'm able to see that a lot of companies are not aware that there are separations of duties where persons are doing, let dev do the dev work and security do the security work. If you're auditing and mention these are the fault and mistakes, the audit team should be able, or the infra or whichever team they are involved, they should be able to work further on those items. The DevSecOps frameworks, we'll discuss a bit about it. The persons who joined yesterday's workshop from Mr. Raja have seen also some of the uh, frameworks. So, and also about those security tools, I will touch a bit on it. Yesterday, there was a whole session about it, and the move and where we are also work together and moving more that in a life cycle management, or if you see the DevOps plan. In the past it was we are already done and we have done our testing before going to production. Oh, we forgot to do the security testing or the pen testing, let's add it. So they call the security or the pen testing team and mention, tomorrow we are going live. Are you able to do the pen test today? Otherwise, we can't. Sorry, we can't go live. That is not the way how it should be, because even there are not so many pen testers available. You will see also that they have also a scheduling, planning, and working on several other projects. The awareness that the projects and the project leaders, the managers should be aware to put security in the begin, almost more in the begin, is one of the items you will see very often. And also in all the security trainings, you will see, even it's a technical or a management training or project leader trainings related to security, you will see that those items will be touched, that they should be able to do that and have those awareness to do it. So having said that, we have create and add actually the security part in the DevOps. So the blue line, blue text is the one for the DevOps, and the security we added in this diagram, the red one. So, and try to move the security a bit more in the side of the dev. So let me go through threat modeling, secure coding, security as code, SAST, DUST, EIS, pen testing, and digital sign. So the left side, I will go discuss a bit more with each slide on each items, and then we will go quickly through the ops part. So, as I mentioned in the yesterday's session, threat modeling was also one of the topics. Here are just mentioned some of the those frameworks or guidelines how you should be able to work and how you can proceed. So, what stride is the each steps in stride has been mentioned. Pasta is one of the one. Fast, try, and there are several more. I just mentioned it as some keywords. If you are interested, Google on these words and you should be able to find a lot of information on these items, how threat modeling is working. On the secure coding, I add the OWASP, also mentioned yesterday in the session. And these are some of the key points where you should be able to focus and check, especially also from auditing point of view, if you're doing auditing or before going live. Pen testers are also using this to check those kind of guidelines. A sample could be that a company want to be have this kind of compliancy, and that is one of the part is you need to meet the requirements of the OWASP, and in with those steps you should be able to check uh, the security items on those each of this development environment and applications. So security as code, um, of course, the DevOps part you will see the security practices. A lot of enterprise companies have their practices, especially not only on vulnerabilities but also if you're getting this kind of environment, you should be able to configure it in on this way, and it should be related to those items you need to add and how you should be able to configure tested in some situation. They have also mentioned all those items. So it's a combination where you will see that the IT teams and the infrastructure team, so that the system engineers, the network engineers, the developers also will work together. As mentioned, there are some frameworks, and more frameworks are mentioned. Will be give some samples about the frameworks also, and how and which kind of controls that you need to take. So OWASP can be one of the controls where you are seeing how and what you need to do and how you are able to mitigate those security issues. So those items are will be a part of your security as code part. So also these items has been discussed yesterday, but the person who had missed it at the workshop, SAST is the where you are able to do the reviewing on the source code. So you need to identify and understand the source code, what they are using. Um, Mostly they support one or more languages. In languages we mean PHP, Java, Dev, .NET, or other kind of languages. The disadvantage is that you will get very often high false positive. So based on those um, items, and there are some tools also in the next slide, you should be able to go and investigate and find those vulnerabilities and fix. So there are also commercial tools, as mentioned also yesterday. More details about some of those tools was and are will be soon available on the Rocheston Rosé, as mentioned by Mr. Haja yesterday. So, but there are also some open source tools here available. So, just of some of the names, I will not go more in depth, but the person who are interested could be able to reach out or check those tools. So, moving forward for Dust. So, Dust is the way where we are able to do. Oh, sorry, I clicked twice, maybe. Sorry. The part for Dust is where you are able to run automated pen testing, exploit those vulnerabilities. You can do it automatically. Um, those scans can take a long of time because it depend on those environment and how and what you will do. So this is a bit more about without having too many knowledge about the environment, you should be able to do a scan to see what's going uh, on those items. Here also some commercial tools and open source tools. The sub is one of them from OWASP, but and there are some more. And the commercial tools, Burp Suite is I used it in the past very often when I was doing pen testing on web and database environments, as example. Um, so those are some of them. Rapid7 also one has also a vulnerability management inside it. So there are some who are using the combinations of some applications. So also this was a part of the workshop. Here a bit about the comparison. If we compare those two, so the SASC you can compare a bit from the white box pen testing, and the dust will be more based on the black box. So the black box will be having knowledge, having known without any knowledge about the environment, just go and try to do it. As in the yesterday uh, part I mentioned a bit about the pen testing also, and red teaming that are more moving. Here they try to do it on an automatic way with the tools, but even then my experience and advice will be still double check or let an pen tester do also the pen test part where needed. So later on in one of the top points, I will mention about the pen test. So the EAST was also mentioned yesterday. It's more the functional test. So now we are moving more how the functionality of those application environment or what has been developed is working. In this situation, you will see that they'll do that mostly on the fly. Um, and on the fly in a production environment could be one of the part what they are trying to do. If your acceptance environment is not similar as your production environment, they move to do that in a production environment. It's not advisable, so you will see that this approach is not mostly will be mostly in use. Um, so the dust and the SAST options are most common used. Um, even the low fall positive opportunities are available, but the risk that something going wrong in your production environment is huge. So and you want to avoid it. And I know that in some companies I work, they had created a hot fix environment. So where all those major patches and updates, what need to be done for testing, they put it, and that was a production-like environment, exact the same, and all the configuration and everything should be the same as on the production. On those environments you should be able to do maybe this kind of in detail functional test, but not all the companies have those environments. Of course, by doing that before doing into production, so you should be able to check if your hotfix is running fine, but also a proper test plan need to be configured and done, how you should be able to do it production. And after done on the production, it will start saying, okay, this patch is working fine. Let's go back to my development environment and install it. So in emergency situation, kind of a quick fix, what need to be done due to a high vulnerability or a high security issue, those environment can be used. But as I mentioned, not all the companies has those environment. Then you should be able to consider if you want to do it on that way or not. So here again, some tools. As you saw yesterday, also the contrast. screenshots, but also the Microsoft application inspector are some of them you can use. Just Google on those names and you will find the commercial tools are at the left side also mentioned. So then moving forward to the pen testing one. So a pen test approach, mostly you will see you need to have a proper preparation. All those environment need to be configured, need to be installed. It should be in that environment how you want to reach out and have the pen testing done on those environments. So, like an example, I'm getting an environment. Yeah, we are still developing. Are you able to plan your pen test on the development environment? Yeah, we can do the pen test, but don't make sense to do the pen test during your development because you are still building. You will create or change a lot of code maybe during that period where you are working. So maybe if your environment you are already done, you have done your functional test on your development environment. Maybe that's a good point to say, okay, now we will do the pen test. And if your pen test is fine on your development environment, make small adjustment, go to the acceptance environment, and we can do the pen test again on the acceptance environment. So how that part of those items need to be configured. So on the preparation is not only this kind of items need to be done, but also from a pen test point of view, you need to know what to do, which environment, when. Are you having the formal approvals? Are the NDA signed? So a lot of items will be need to be discussed in the preparation part. Then you should be able to depend on the kind of pen test you are doing and which environment you are going to do the pen test. Try to gather the information, do your scanning part, check for vulnerability management, then exploitment if you are able to find it, or the way how you should be able to use it. An sample could be for a website application. I mean, I'm logging as a user on a website and I'm able to see some screens because I'm just a user on that website, but I'm able to give me more privilege escalation on that. So I will become a super admin or an admin where I can should be able to create new users. So if I'm able to do that and create a new admin user, something can make adjustment. Maybe on a website I will be able to make price changes or all those other items I can do. So those kind of part you are able to have that in your use cases where you should be able to before using and doing the pen test. On that part you can also test it. You can do your exploitations on that. Reporting part is an important part on pen testing, where you need to create a report, which kind of items you find, but also how and which steps you have taken in technical way, but also on a management level. With risk scores, you should be able to give low, medium, high. Um, and based on that the business should be able to interact on it. On a reporting part and especially on enterprise environments, I'm seeing that you should be able to also present it as in a presentation form with the business, the technical persons, as in some situation they combined it. So you need to have a separate part for the technical persons and separate for the management, or you have two sessions where you are able to explain it. And based on that also how and with screenshots what they need to do to find the vulnerability or the items what you have find. You are actually already giving them on a plate to the development. Here you need to check in these items, I made those changes, and based on that I was able to do this. And you will also give some advice on it how they can mitigate and solve it after those changes, especially a lot of medium risk and high risk, you will see that a retest need to be done. So you move back to number one and do the test, the whole pen test again, and give an approval. In some companies, I'm seeing without having those approval from the pen test team, you are not able to go live or in production. So it's an important item what need to be done, and the project managers or the teams or the businesses need to be aware. So even it's the last one, maybe point where they are checking before they are able to go live. Um, they try to move the pressure to the pentest team and said, you, sorry, you are responsible, and we need to do it as soon as possible. I know that the managers of those pentest teams are mostly getting a lot of pressure on that to say, yeah, just do it. So I will not call the name of those environment where I was working. Um, so there was the next day the production, because there was a huge announcement going on. All the members and the business persons was informed that tomorrow is the go live. And when they was doing a pre-check if everything has been done 2 3 days before, um, they came and noticed that the pen test was not done, and they was not getting the approval from the security officer, the CISO, to say, okay, the pen test is gone done. We are have checked all those items. So they reached out to the manager, and the manager came to me and said, yeah, we see that we are not able to, we don't have done the pen test. Are you able to check what's the reason and why not? So I checked and I said, we never get a request to do the pen test. So if the business or the project leaders are not reaching out to us and we are not involved, so how should we know that? So he mentioned that, okay, then they came with a quick solution and said, okay, just do a quick scan. So I asked him, what is a quick scan then? What do you want to do? Just an vulnerability management scan, or so take only the number three and we leave the rest without any preparation, without any other items. So yeah, actually not. We need to follow the process. So the manager came back to them and said, no, actually, we are not able to give the, if we are even able to do the number three only, we are not able to give you the guarantee that the pen test has been successfully done. And we can't give the approval to go live. So then you will see that an awareness on that they need to have this part done in the begin, or try to involve the security teams also in the development, but also during the stages what they are using or moving forward is an important item where they should be able to move. So in our situation, they had postponed for 1 week the go live. So, but yeah, it was not our mistake or our fault, but that yeah, that those kind of issues happen. But I think it was a good lesson learned, because as from the next going live of each other items what need to be done, there was knowing that we need to have at least um, security on it. So after a few months, I was joining another meeting about to set up an environment with other teams, and they put the pen test on the list. And even our part, because they need still to work with the development part, but they just put it on the list as an action list. We don't need to forget that before go live, at least in the begin phase, we need to schedule with the pen test team to have a slot where they are able to do the pen test. So that was the, yeah, the lesson learned what they took. So moving forward, this is the part about the pen testing. The details still assigned. So now we have created, and we need to try to be secure our code. So where we are able to use digital signature from those authorized publishers. So the CAs part you will see, this could be apart from a software where you are building, but the same approach can be also used for apps, mobile apps, where you need also to sign it with digital signatures. Those code signing need to be done. You can add a digital certificate on it, and of course, a part of encryption will be included. A short bit how the um, digital signature works. So I have a code. The team have created a code. We convert that code, make a hash value of it. That hash code will be encrypted with a private key. Um, and we add the signatures on that from where and who has created or from where we build this code. We attach that one to the code and we sign it together, and we are able to have a signed code. So those signed codes you are able to use in your deployment part and in your production or in any application what you are using. So that's bring me actually to those left side. Moving forward, the right side. Um, of course, after having done that, you need to secure how on a secure way you are able to share that with the environment. Um, put it on an SFTP or drive somewhere that the uh, operations should be able to have access on it. Secure the configuration files. What we have created, this is on a secure environment. Uh, those security scans, security patches I already discussed and mentioned about it, how you should be able to apply in which environment you should be able to configure. The auditing, I also discussed about it. The monitoring part involve also the security operation centers and all those teams who are monitoring it so that they are able to know that those items need to be monitored, expire date of certificates or any other kind of items can be configured, uh, and those security analysis can be done moving forward to the threat modeling part. So as I mentioned, I give some of those part about the frameworks or the way. It's not only that we are using a way of working with what could be used for everyone. So you will see one of the slides where a lot of items what we have discussed now you will see back threat modeling in the plan development part. So each company has their own way how they describe these steps, but you will see a bit similarity on most of them. So the SAST you will see, the dust you will see, configuration checks what need to be done, threat intel and the pen testing you will see also. And there are also a lot of them what we some discuss a kind of hardening part to from the infrastructure part you will see. So there's a sample from was from Microsoft. Here you will see that even Red Hat are using this kind of approach where you are able to see some of them coming back where we are able to work. So the SCA, the software compository analysis, you will see also working together or very near to the SAS. You are able to see this kind of items also. So some of them. So there are a lot of enterprise companies also working on this approach. IBM has their own similar kind of way. So how and where they are able to use it. So based on those best practices or the way of the structure what they are using, but you will see a lot of similarity with a lot of them vendors. So that it's almost the end of my presentation, but I have some motivation tips or giveaway actually how we should be able to move. Uh, so give me 2 sec. Let me check. Next, yeah. So the persons who are reaching or saying, let's learn something from cybersecurity or in the DevSecOps, I want to be. If you spend even 0.5% of your daily life to learn a bit about it, so you don't need to take the full time in a week, 1 hour, but only sometime. And a simple example can be each morning, every morning. If you are in the past, when persons was traveling, they took a newsletter and they was reading a lot of topics. We just go to some of the security websites just to get the general security news and just read 5 minutes. I mean, you should be able to know what's going on in the security landscape. Of course, we are security professionals. We are spending 2-3 hours per day, maybe whole day in knowing what's going on, because we are dealing with a lot of those items. But if you are not directly familiar or directly working in this field, even a 5 minutes time to just go in the morning, not in the weekend, of course, you can take your rest, but during the week, example, you can just read those items. If you are doing or just, which kind of interested topic should be. And some topics could be interested for you and some could be not interested. Example could be that some person like the cybersecurity law way of working, want to know more about it, and some just like only the pen testing or the hacking part or the breaches, what's going on, the vulnerabilities. It depends on those topics what you are should be able to read. So if you do this after 1 year, you should be able to say, yeah, I've now a bit more knowledge about it, or later on. So your glass is not always empty. If you work a bit, and we call it baby steps, if you take very small steps, you should be able to reach something. So a general advice also, a personal thing, yeah, shall I move into this security field? What's going on? It look like so huge, a lot of domains, a lot of technical terms they are saying. Shall I do this? But if you start already, it looks like it's not so big, but can be shorter and smaller. So you can start moving, pushing on it and say, okay, let's proceed. After a while, after a long period, you're just playing with a lot of those items. The persons who are experienced in this field, yeah, they can make yeah, play around it. Take the up topics where you are good on it and like those topics, and you can and it will become a day of your life where you are able to work and do handle and make fun also of it. It's not only that I need to work and start morning and doing a pen test, so boring, I don't want to do it. So that is not it. It's excited, those excitement will be there, and you are able to join and work in those fields. So that's some basic tips. And then to have some key takeaway tips at the end, together with Mr. Ganesh, we have set it up as a summary also. Uh, we mentioned it already, all those items. Start from the beginning with the secure coding. So the coding part they will do by giving them knowledge or sharing the knowledge about coding with those development teams, and to secure it, how they should be able to secure, what are the known issues, how hackers are able to misuse those fault in those codes, should be able to know by those developers. Um, apply those best practices. A lot of companies are aware or having a knowing that these items and securing those coding is a must, so they should be able to advise you and work on it. So adapt those industry standard, the OWASP, PCI DSS for the payment industry, for the health, there are other frameworks. So for a lot of industries, there are frameworks already available. Not all of them, but there are a lot of them. And in some situation, you can make use of some other vendors, some other frameworks. The OWASP is one of the general one where you should be able to apply in all those environments. So as Mr. Ganesh already mentioned, added in the CI and CD pipeline, sorry, the teamwork and how you should be able to work with the dev teams and the ops, and those basic education for, of course, also the developers, but also for other business and non-business person in a company should be a must. Not only in the business, I'm also knowing that in schools, universities across the world, where teachers are also not knowing all those items, what's going on. So a movement to give the those teacher, principals, managers directors in those colleges and universities, it's also good to have those kind of basic education. As I mentioned, an RCCS training is a good one to start. Without having any basic knowledge, anyone should be able to join. Even you are from the IT background or other kind of branches you are coming up. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. Mr. Ganesh can join, and then we should be able to answer the question if there are any questions. Aditya, are you there?
Hi, Soenil. I'm here.
Hi. Hope I don't take again too many times, so
No, no, not at all.
and exceed the timeline.
Not at all.
Okay.
Hi, Ganesh.
Hi.
So if you have any questions, you can ask, and Ganesh and Sonal will be very happy to answer the questions.
Yes.
Maybe any question from you,
Okay.
Aditya,
Any
for us?
questions? Most of the people are just most of them people are just saying awesome presentation. I think they were enjoying your presentation. And then some of the observations are half of the integration issues are resolved through optimized branching strategies.
Mhm.
I don't think we have any questions so far. I think it's just everyone appreciating and enjoying your presentations.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
So then I think
Okay.
from my side, you can reach out to me via LinkedIn.
There are some
If you have any
sorry,
questions,
there are
yes.
questions. So why is UX taken out? Why is user experience taken out? And then is it expensive to deploy DevSecOps?
UX user experience, I don't think it is. It is definitely a design thing. When we do user experience, right? It is mostly part of the design aspect of your software development lifecycle, right? So what we are talking about is how we are building, developing, testing, deploying, and monitoring, and how security fits into that. And that is one of the reasons you don't see much of UX. At best, max I can say is that user experience testing or usability testing is being done, right, as part of testing. But again, in DevOps, most of the times we talk about automating them. So that will be part of your functional test automation. Okay, so yeah.
Then the next question is it expensive to deploy DevSecOps?
Uh, of course, I mean, I wouldn't say it is expensive. The point is this: the adoption of DevSecOps or DevOps, both, right? For large enterprises, it actually happens at a very enterprise level, right? I mean, lot of this funding and budgeting, everything happens at the enterprise level. You have a multi-year rollout programs like a yearly to 1 year to 3 year programs where you get the budget allocated. Definitely, it is expensive because you need people to do all these automation. You need to buy licenses. Many of them are open source. For example, Jenkins is open source, right? Some of the tools are open source. For example, but if you want to buy IBM AppScan, which Sunil mentioned as one of the tools, that is a paid tool, right? So you need to pay for the licenses. You need to pay for the infrastructure, right? You need to pay for the DevOps engineers to ensure that all these automation are working. So I wouldn't say it is expensive, but uh, I was talking to a managing director of a very large financial services firm globally, and I asked him what is his top priority for the next 2 to 3 years. Now, many people thought, like, because we always talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, data analytics, it's all a buzzword, right? I mean, everybody is excited about all these things. But if you really look at an enterprise, what they really care about is how they can bring in stability, improve their software engineering, modernize their application. So his answer was very simple: application modernization projects. When he says application modernization project, there are two things. One is moving to the cloud, right? Moving to the cloud platforms, but creating cloud native applications and also following best software engineering practices like DevOps and DevSecOps into their software engineering, way of working. So uh, companies are already spending a lot of money there. I can tell you that much.
Okay. I think everyone was a little shy because now the questions are coming in. So the next question is in the context of implementing security in early stages of DevSecOps, would you please explain more about one, infrastructure as code, and two, compliance as code?
Infrastructure, I mean, I don't know about compliance. You have anything to say about compliance code? I mean, Sunil?
No, I'm seeing even that in enterprise companies, and especially if you're seeing moving into the cloud, as a sample from Microsoft point of view, I know there are a lot of items already, security items already included. The compliance is part also is a part where you should be able to add, but indeed those licenses need to be added in your portfolio before you should be able to get those risk and compliance alerts, what need to be adjusted and is a part of those items. So yeah, indeed, from cloud, it look like from a cloud point of view, especially if I'm seeing the word infrastructure as a code and those items, from the cloud point of view, there are a lot of those items added. But yeah, the companies need to be have those license. Mostly that could be one of the consideration, or they are already using other tools, uh, what are covering these items.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the
I
next
think
question.
one of the tools for IAC is very widely used is called Terraform. I mean, there are many tools actually
Yep.
available. One of the tool is Terraform, which will help you to build your infrastructure, have the entire infrastructure as a in a code form, and then you can just replicate it across. Now, that is just about building the infrastructure. How security goes in is, like we do all these server hardening and things like that at the hardware level, right? Now all those skins can also be brought into your code, so that when you have a new environment that is coming up, your security aspects are also taken care. Mostly these are all things done by tools.
Okay. The next question is can we make it mandatory to force companies to use DevSecOps as supply chain requirements in order to get contracts?
Yeah, I mean, it depends again, I would say. It depends on the commitment that the leadership has got on the security, right? As I told, some very large enterprises are already in that direction, right? I mean, but it again, end of the day, it depends on your commitment. But if you really want to enforce it, yes, I mean, it has to be made as one of the very important thing that the software engineering teams have to start practicing. Now, whenever I go and coach teams, in software engineering, and as an agile coach or a DevOps coach, one of the things we talk about is this: secure coding, how to start your coding from the beginning, right? What kind of scanning tools you have. Are you using Sonar Lint, Sonar Cube, App Scan, right? Is DevSecOps part of your CI pipeline, right? We ask all these questions, right? And then make them, coach and make them improve on that. At the end of the day, it is again based on the organization, enterprise, how much time and effort really we really want to. There are teams which says that this is all too much. We like to do pen test at the end. Happy. This is all too much complicated. So I mean, it's not. These things are not for them, basically. Yeah.
So I think there's a good follow-up question to that. Programmers are lazy to follow DevSecOps guidelines. How do you force them to follow strict processes?
This is more of a culture thing, right? I mean, if you say programmers are lazy, not lazy, generally when this is a higher level thing, we talk about people behavior, right? And there is you might be aware of organization change management. There are various techniques that are available as part of OCM framework on how will you bring about positive change in an organization. One is like, for example, training, right? Give them training, right? Second one is coaching. Assign a coach for 5 to 10 engineering teams, which I generally do. Last year I did a coaching engagement for 5 teams. So we constantly keep coaching the developers to go do things in the right way, right? So it has nothing to do with money or time, but it has to, how do you change the behavior of the people? Uh, for example, in few companies, when you hire fresh graduates from the market, they are going through a 3 to 4 weeks training program in which they implement all these things. So when they start working on the project, they already know that these things are important, right? So the multiple approaches that you can follow as part of the OCM framework. I don't think programmers are lazy. Actually, programmers are very smart people, in my opinion, right? It is about most of the times when I really go and do agile coaching, right, I find issues at the leadership level, unfortunately, not at the developers level.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? If a
I,
leadership is inclined to do things, change things, you can get things done in a very positive way. Yeah.
I
Okay.
can maybe add a bit about it. Indeed, I'm agreeing. They are not lazy. It's mostly the unawareness part of what they are not knowing how hackers from an ethical hacking point of view or non-ethical hacking point of view should be able to make use. So they are knowing everything about their code, how they need to create it, or maybe there are very developers who have 10, 15 years experience and not aware what the market is now going on and what kind of vulnerabilities there are, how we are able to make use of those vulnerability in those codes, what they are doing. So yeah, indeed, it should be, and even those die-hard developers who are working as a senior developers, they need to be have that trainings or just awareness about security. So it's not that they are not willing. I guess they should be able to will, and that need to be yeah given by the from the management point of view. Developer X, you need also to follow this kind of trainings where you should be able to learn. Just to add that one.
Okay. I think we have one last question before I let you all go. Can someone use waterfall model in DevSecOps instead of agile phases?
Can you use waterfall model, right? In devs, see, for that you need to actually, it's a separate training to what is the waterfall model and what is iterative development model, right? So some elements of DevOps and DevSecOps can be done whether you use waterfall model or Scrum, right? End of the day, it doesn't matter, right? End of the day, you are delivering something to the client. In waterfall, you deliver, say, probably once in 3 months, right? But if you use a iterative framework like Scrum, you will probably deliver something like once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks, right? Some element of DevOps, for example, CI tools, test automation, integration, infrastructure as a code, implementing security, scanning of code, all these can be done whether you use waterfall or agile. So it is wrong to say that you can use only. I remember working on a waterfall model long time, when I started my career, but I used many of these tools already there. Not just I'm using all these things only now. And for example, test automation frameworks. I remember writing a test automation framework 15 years back. It's not new. Many people think that these are all new, but this is all there from 1998 to 2000s, right? But maybe the more focus is there now, right?
Okay. So I think we're done with the questions as well. So thank you so much, Sunil. Thank you so much, Ganesh, for that very interesting and I think knowledgeable presentation and session that you took us all through. We definitely loved your answers to the questions as well. They were very in-depth and clear and helped understand a little better. So it was a pleasure on behalf of Rocheston to have you all at the Reinvent conference. We would love to have you for our future events as well. Thank
Thank
you.
you, Aditya.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Thank
everybody.
you.
audience.
Thanks, everybody. Yeah. Bye bye.
Have a nice
Thank you.
Sunday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.